So what has Tim Cook and his Apple mates been cooking up this year? Here's all the important stuff Apple just announced from WWDC. And if you own one of these, for the first time in a while, it's actually quite a lot. Well, last year's Apple Developer Conference event was full of promises. Promises specifically about a particular couple of words.
Apple Intelligence.
And we all know how that turned out, don't we? Apple made a lot of interesting promises about their baked-in AI offering, but as we've learned in the last 12 months, it wasn't anywhere near ready. And that brings us to this week's WWDC, which had an interesting challenge. How do you talk about what's happening in the world of Apple-flavored software whilst taking a massive sidestep around that AI-shaped elephant in the room? Well, now we know. You say this.
Last year, we took the first steps on a journey to bring you intelligence that's most helpful and relevant for you.
I guess those first steps were more like these kind of steps, eh? So it appears that the Apple Intelligence PR team is going for the "it's just going to keep getting better" angle, which I guess is fine. Now, the two other big updates across all of Apple's devices were the unified naming scheme, which was televised long ahead of the keynote. Everything is now called 26, by the way, except macOS, which will be called Tahoe. And then anyone planning on playing the Apple Intelligence drinking game would have been disappointed because it was replaced by a new pair of words.
Liquid glass.
This is the new look across the different Apple operating systems, and it's essentially transparency mode on everything. In all seriousness, I think it looks pretty nice, and I'm really looking forward to testing it out when the public beta arrives. But we're here to talk about iPad, and Apple announced some really interesting changes that are coming in the iPadOS 26. See if you can spot the theme here. First of all, multitasking is getting a big upgrade with a new set of controls, including window snapping. Just like on a Mac, you get red, orange, and green window controls for resizing app windows. Just like on a Mac, you get expose when you swipe up so that you can see all your open windows in one view. Just like on a Mac. And the menu bar, which is a bit like a Mac. And whilst there's a special version of this for iPad Air and iPad Pro that works when your iPad is extended to a display, these new features will work on all the current iPad models, and yeah, even the little iPad mini. There's also an interesting live translation feature that will happen when you're sending messages on video calls or even on phone calls. And yes, the iPad is getting a full-blown phone app, just like on your iPhone. That's actually pretty big news for people who've got cellular-enabled iPads. It also gets the new phone app updates that are coming elsewhere, including Hold Assist and Call Screening. Elsewhere, the Files app still looks broadly the same, but you get more information and also the ability to do things like put folders in the dock. Just like a Mac, now that I think about it. And you can color code them or even add emojis for a bit of personalization. They're also bringing Preview to iPad so that you can quickly edit PDFs and images right from the Files app. Preview is actually one of the most powerful apps on my Mac, so it's good to see some of it being ported over just like this. And if you want to plug in a different microphone to your iPad for recording demos, video calls, or podcasts, even professional grade microphones, there's now an audio input selector, just like a Mac, with things like built-in noise cancellation and on-device recording when you're in certain apps. That's actually pretty cool, as it gives you a lot of the features you get with a program like Riverside, but right out of the box. Apple are also upgrading the Shortcuts app. Does anyone really use this? I've been thinking about making a video on Shortcuts lately, as there's already loads that you can do with it. With iPadOS 26, you can combine Shortcuts with Apple Intelligence. So for example, if you made some notes from a lecture and also an audio recording from that lecture, you can write an automatic shortcut that will combine your notes with the stuff from the transcript so that you don't miss anything important. It's pretty cool. And yet also, this is one of the areas I actually think Apple could have gone much further with. Shortcuts is basically an if this then that style app that lets you run all sorts with a tap, or even automated actions that can happen without you needing to get involved. I think setting them up is a bit tricky for the average user, so it would be cool to be able to use natural language to set them up using Apple Intelligence. So you could just say or type, set my heating to come on every other Wednesday and only if it's freezing outside, and it would create that automation for you. Maybe one day, eh? And then on the more powerful iPads, you can also run background tasks, such as exporting a massive video in Final Cut, which will continue even if you switch over to another app. It's a little bit like you can on a Mac. Funny that. There were also a couple of smaller updates that they didn't put in the keynote, including a new calligraphy style read pen option, a new 3D graphing capability in Math Notes, the ability to import and export notes into a markdown file, and also some really neat accessibility options for people with visual impairments. The Journal app is also coming to iPad finally, and the Messages app is getting some new features, including customized backgrounds, polls, and typing bubbles on group chats, which is just a little bit late as WhatsApp just became available on iPad, and that's been able to do all these things for a while. And besides, I think that's where most people do their group messaging, don't they? I'll be looking to test out all of these as soon as I get my hands on the beta, but let me know, folks, what are you most excited to check out here? Do you think iPads are edging any closer to becoming a full computer replacement yet? And was there anything else that Apple announced that's caught your eye, like maybe the full Black Mirror version of Vision OS, perhaps? Yeah, way too weird for me. Don't forget to like and subscribe down in the doobly-doo. See you next time.